Hello, my name is Jacob, and I'm a Norse Pagan, and today I want to talk about sports, because recently I was forced to go watch the Super Bowl because I am from Cincinnati, or the Cincinnati area, which meant I was up to see my parents to root for the Bengals. But this got me thinking, what can I talk about on this channel around sports? I mean, I'm really not that into sports. I like soccer. I played basketball back in the day until they realized I wasn't going to hit puberty anytime soon and I wasn't going to get any taller. And I do have a liking for soccer or European football that I do pay attention to relatively closely from time to time, especially around the World Cup. But really, I started thinking about what kind of sports did the Viking Age people play, and maybe before and after a little bit. And so I wanted to make this video and do some research to find, what they may have done for, competition, for fun. And I'm honestly very surprised the depth of information I was able to find, and I think this is actually going to be a very good video, and I hope you enjoy it. But I will be sharing some of the things we know historically, some of the sports and other things like that. And I should say that this isn't a heavy research-based video. I don't have book sources for you and things like that. For the most part, this is just internet research I did, and then things that kind of all came together. If I saw it in multiple sources, I'm sharing with you here. And again, it's very interesting. I'm very excited to share this video with you here at this little tiny baseball field I found here in Lexington. Now, before we move into what we know historically, I do want to say what we know about the mythology. I mean, there's nothing directly sports related, but the theme of competition is all the way throughout many of the stories within the prose and poetic Edda. Competition is most notably mentioned in the tale of Utgarder Loki in the prose Edda, where Thor and Loki go to the hall of Utgarder Loki and basically have to perform in these competitions. Thor is involved in a wrestling match as well as a drinking competition, and then Loki is also involved in an eating competition, which is very interesting. And so we see that theme of competition and winning these competitions to be very important to the people of the Viking Age through this. And most likely eating competitions and drinking competitions were involved there, and of course wrestling. Another tale that features something that is very popular in modern Viking media is the tale of Harbuts the Old, where we see Odin and Thor fighting each other to some extent across a fjord where they're basically insulting each other back to back. Another story that we see competition featured is once again involving Thor as well as Tyr in Heimaskiva, where they're going to Hymir's home, which is Tyr's father. And then while there, Thor involves himself in sort of a fishing competition with Hymir. And then later on in the household, there's another competition where Thor is meant to break a cup that is unbreakable. So again, just a small mentioning of this. And then just in general, throughout all the prose and poetic Edda and the stories that we have, there's just the sharing of wits, people arguing with one another or sharing the knowledge they have. So competition, without a doubt, was important to the people of the Viking Age and prior. Now, as far as what we know as far as sports as they played, it is pretty limited. Now, of course, we do know that wrestling was involved. We can infer that a lot of the common things that people around the world did around this time, including running, general races, horse races, archery competitions, wrestling, sword fighting, and things like that, were most likely all important and all things that were prized during the Viking Age. I was able to find that other competitions that are common today, such as tug of war, were popular during the Viking Age as well and prior. And now it was called Togahonk, or Tagahonk, which is very interesting. But everything I was able to find is it was basically tug of war. Now, this one I'm having a lot of trouble pronouncing, but this is the only truly unique Viking Age sport that I was able to find, and it's still somewhat practiced in Iceland today, and people are trying to bring it back, but once I describe it, I think you'll realize why people kind of stopped playing it. It is called Knotlaker. Knotlaker. I'm putting it up right here. Knotlaker. I can't remember if the K would be silent, but I think it's Knotlaker. And this is supposedly similar to the Irish game hurling, which I also know nothing about. But what if I could find online is this competition takes all day. So they would begin it at dawn and end it at dusk, which is already insane right there. But then the sport involves two captains, and there are sticks involved and a ball, I believe. is very violent and people get hurt a lot, and which is also another reason why it isn't practiced today. Again, I couldn't really find anything online or people playing it, and I really didn't comprehend it, but it definitely seems like this sport was complicated, and it even had penalty boxes, it had set rules, so there was a lot to this, and it seems like it was most definitely played at least during the early Icelandic days, if not even earlier. Now, the question of should we play this today? I'm not really sure. Oh, hello. You caught me playing with my balls. If you're enjoying this video and want to support the content here at the Wisdom of Odin so I can continue playing with my balls, please think about going to Patreon and supporting me there. But most importantly, right now, we have just launched our nonprofit religious organization known as the Fellowship of Northern Traditions. Now, at the time of me recording this, there are 3 gatherings available on the website that we have recently put up there, including the Netherlands, our first European gathering, Pennsylvania, and Oregon for midsummer. So please check out that website if you're interested and sign up for our newsletter. That way you know when new gatherings are going to be put up there. But we're really excited. We're about to do the big push for the land. So make sure you're subscribed to this page, you follow that page to stay up to date on what we're doing as a nonprofit organization. But ultimately, thank you so very much for supporting the content here, the growth we've had as a community, and just watching these kind of ridiculous videos I have sometimes. But again, I hope you're enjoying it and the information I'm providing for you. But now, back to the video. Now, this is all I could find as far as outdoor activities or sport-like activities, but there is a pretty good amount of activities that we knew that people did inside, or I guess they could do them outside, but such as Neffeltoffel, such as board games. Board games were important. And it's pretty much a given that if they had one board game, they most likely had many, but we just don't really know of any others that survived, at least none that I could find on a quick search. I'm sure someone else down below will let me know if there's anything else. But Neffeltoffel is pretty prominent because it was found in several grave sites, and so we know people played it. Interestingly enough, we don't know the actual rule set of Neffeltoffel because they didn't come with the instructions on the back of the box like they do nowadays. So people have reconstructed most likely what the game and how it was played. So what we play now that we call Neffeltoffel might not exactly be the same as the Neffeltoffel of the past. And then, of course, there is the famous Viking indoor activity or drinking game known as flighting. Now, I don't know any sources where we actually see this outside of Harbuts the Old, which don't exactly see the rules here, but I saw many sources listing this, and so I'm going to bring it up here as well. And the set rules of flighting, at least what I could find, is that you have 2 teams. Now, it could just be 2 individuals, but it did seem like it was a team-based game where everyone would chug a drink, and then they would insult the other side of the table. And then the other team would chug a drink and insult them back. And there was a poetic device to this. And basically, you went back and forth until one team was no longer able to create any creative or coherent rhymes because they were too drunk. So this is something that I definitely want to try. Obviously being cautious how much we encourage drinking gatherings, which already have so much mead, but it does sound like an interesting thing, and I wouldn't mind trying them in a group environment. Now, the last outdoor activity I want to mention here is something that we may not necessarily know of a direct sport related to it, but the Scandinavian people are some of the world's earliest skiers, and evidence of skis being throughout their culture as far as even in the writings and artifacts that we have found is very, very evident, especially since you have 2 gods of skiing. You have Skadi and you have Ullr, who are both involved in skiing practices. So the chances of them having some form of skiing competition are pretty high as well. Now, as far as what we've done within our community to kind of bring these things back to life, I feel like it's definitely been a natural process. I don't think there's ever really been a moment where we sat down and we said, you know what, we need sports and competition. I think it's something that just naturally comes from a gathering of people, whether it's, just friends and family or if it's a religious gathering. But we have brought in several different things, including Neffeltoffel is probably the first I remember. I remember pretty early on someone bringing a Neffeltoffel board. But as far like board games in general have become very popular within our community. We typically have 1 or 2 nights of every gathering where everyone kind of just comes inside, particularly the Yule season, it seems like, and plays board games, card games, and nothing necessarily tied to the Viking Age. At Yule this last year, I got stuck playing this game called Enos, which is like a modern Celtic board game, and we played that thing for like 4 hours. So I definitely think that board games and indoor competitions like that seem to be popular. I do know a drinking game or 2 has been played as well, and then I do remember one time we actually had 2 people flight each other, which was interesting. It definitely seems like it requires a little bit more prep, that you can't just flight on the go. I'm not sure, but again, it is something that I would like to see more of. Now, I know some people are going to be hating on this, so we have brought like foam swords, fake swords to gatherings, and I'm sure this is where a lot of people are like, oh, you guys are just LARPers. But like, for real, who doesn't like just beating the crap out of each other with fake swords? I mean, yeah, I've been doing that since I was a kid, but it hasn't stopped being fun. I mean, I don't think this is something that really has ever gone away, and I think we can infer from the past that this is something they have done as well. I mean, whether it was, actually training for war, if it was something that to just keep you young and fit, I just think that beating the shit out of each other with sticks is a human pastime. So I don't think it's any different here at a gathering. So, getting people together, I mean, it's just a lot of fun to have everyone come together and sword fight. It's just a fun, great competition that, can slightly tie you to the ancestors as well. I do know that at a recent gathering, this I wasn't at myself, they did have a fighting competition for Thor, and this is something that I wanted to bring up as well. It seems like Thor in general is tied pretty heavily to competitive nature, just simply because the majority of his stories that he's in involve some form of competition. So if you're looking for a way to connect with Thor more, a deity that I think at times gets labeled pretty simply, mostly due to Marvel, I think if you want to dedicate things to Thor as far as competition, I think this would be a really great way to grow a deeper connection with him, or to dedicate a victory to him. I mean, dedicating a fight in general, even if it's a loss. I mean, he lost competitions. Both things in Utgarda Loki were a loss, except for maybe the drinking competition where they're like, well, you actually did drain the sea a little bit. So, I mean, I really do think that if you want to grow a deeper connection to Thor, competition might be a really great way to do so. The last thing I really wanted to add here, as far as, talking about this subject, is, dreams of sports of the future. This is something I have been thinking about, is, while I have respect for people that are reconstructionists in this faith and they want to try to recreate it as close as possible to the past, I do think that there is a lesson to be learned in, as far as allowing things to grow themselves and allowing new traditions to start. I think this is something that the ancestors would have wanted. They wouldn't have wanted us to become stale and stagnant. So I believe this in multiple facets of the faith. I mean, obviously we should respect the past, but I think we should be allowed to grow in our own direction. Something I think would be great for this is inventing new sports for the faith. And this is something, I want people to tell me down below what you think of my idea, and I want you to share your ideas and bringing new things to this. Now, the idea that I've had is a shield wall game. I mean, obviously this comes from the Vikings TV show to some degree, but shield walls have just become so popular, and the idea of a Viking is shield wall. I mean, you see it all over the place. So why not make a game of it? So my idea of it is to make it kind of like a tug of war style thing, where you have two teams of maybe 10 lined up in a shield wall, and you have big shields, and your idea is to push one side or the other a certain distance. Maybe there can be different tactics, or if your shield wall breaks, you lose the game. And so an idea is to try to kind of create that movement without breaking your own shield wall. But it's not something that I've fully developed, but I want to try something. Now I need the shields for it, particularly probably maybe not wooden shields, maybe some form of foam, so no one gets horribly injured. But that wouldn't be, we'll figure it out. And I've even thought maybe bringing in some form of paintball type thing to it. So maybe you have like a shield wall game, or some people have arrows dipped in paint, like foam arrows, and they shoot them at people, and do some form of paintball versus shield wall kind of game. I don't know. Let me know. This is why the comment section exists, or it should exist. Go down below. Let me know your thoughts on a shield wall type game, how we should develop one. It's going to be one of those things the first time we try it. We'll see. But who knows? Maybe 60 years from now, when I'm dead and gone. 15 years from now, based on the stress and the way I eat, maybe at a certain point people are still playing this game and taking it and developing it and changing it into something else. Regardless of anything, I do think bringing competition into the faith in general is a really great way to connect to the gods, connect to the ancestors, and also connect to the people around you. Because this is not just a pagan thing. We don't own competition. We don't own sports. No one, that's one of the best universal things about humanity in general. No one owns sports. No one owns competition. And so everyone around the world participates in sports and competition in some way. So if you're looking for a way to connect with your brothers and sisters in the faith, or even people outside, just in the normal everyday world, play some sports with them, have some competition, be respectful, have a friendly competition with them, show that pagan soul in yourself within that competition. I think this would be a really great way for you to connect with others and share your faith at the same time. Like I said, I hope I've convinced you that I found some really interesting things, and I'm really excited to do, possibly some of these in the future. I don't know about the game that takes all day. Maybe we'll avoid that one, but definitely flighting, wrestling again is something we've already brought into the community. Mock sword fighting, all these things have been a lot of fun, but competition in general has seemed to be very important to the people of the Viking Age and even to their mythology. So I think competition now, at least friendly competition, is just as important. So really, I really want to inspire you. I mean, really, I mean, really, this is something that you have to have a community for, but as more and more communities begin to form, as ours continues to grow, I really want to see more friendly competitions come into the fold, new games made, old games played as well, and then even the fun games that aren't necessarily sports, such as the flighting or Neffeltoffel. Again, these are all things that I want to see come more to the fruition. I mean, yes, this is a faith, yes, it's a religion, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be somber. It's supposed to be fun, and we can see that in the past that the Viking Age people and that came before and after them had fun, had competitions, and yes, even had sports. Thank you once again for joining me for this video, and don't forget to check out that website for updates on the Hall and future gatherings. But with that, until the Hall, because it is coming faster than we all realize. Skull.